This film is a documentary focusing on the catastrophic F5 tornado that struck Joplin, Missouri on May 22, 2011 and the personal experiences of several individuals whose lives were forever changed by the disaster. The story begins with the backdrop of the class of the apocalypse, the graduating high school students of 2011 who, due to widespread fear-mongering about the world ending on May 21, had been celebrating life just hours before the devastating storm. For Mac, an amateur storm chaser, and his girlfriend Kaylee, a college graduate with a passion for music and a need for calming stability, the day begins with a party hangover. Mac spots an isolated massive cumulonimbus cloud on the horizon and, intrigued, takes Kaylee and her brother Eric out toward the Kansas state line to chase the storm, driven by adrenaline and a fascination with severe weather. They track the developing supercell, initially treating it as an adventure until they witness the frightening rotation and an undeniable shift in the storm's intensity. Meanwhile, Chad Curley, a 14-year-old teen caster from San Diego obsessed with severe weather, has flown to Joplin with his mother to job shadow a local meteorologist, Doug Heddy, in Tornado Alley. Upon landing, Chad immediately notices the peculiar atmospheric conditions and the eerie stillness. While having dinner, he is glued to his radar app, which shows a dangerous supercell moving toward the city. The local sirens begin to wail, but locals at the restaurant dismiss them as routine. However, Chad, recognizing the severity of the radar image and the ominous green tint of the sky, frantically convinces his mother and the other diners to take shelter, just as local meteorologist Doug Heddy cuts into the programming to issue a dire confirmed tornado warning for the city. The movie interweaves the experiences of several other Joplin residents. Cecil, a high school junior working at a frozen yogurt shop, initially dismisses the tornado watch but soon sees a terrifying dark wall approaching and hears a loud, scary growling sound. The lights go out and he hysterically commands the customers and his manager into the back, believing the rapture has come and he has been left behind. At the Joplin High School graduation held at Missouri Southern State University just outside of town, Keegan Henry, a popular jock and football captain, is texting his friend Will Norton during the ceremony. His family leaves, but Keegan stays behind to take pictures with friends. His father, the chief of the ambulance district, calls and orders him home as the sirens blare. Keegan, an EMT trainee, realizes the gravity of the situation and cuts through the grass to avoid traffic, driving into progressively worsening conditions. Elsewhere, Stephen, a lone wolf teenager on a back road with friends, after getting a text warning from his dad, suddenly sees the sky turn pitch black within seconds. Trees begin flying across the road and one hits their car. Mac, Kaylee, and Eric are caught in the action. The storm rapidly intensifies, transitioning from a chase to a full-blown threat as the rain-wrapped tornado appears right behind them in Kaylee's side view mirror. The massive dark monster chasing their car is the last thing Kaylee remembers seeing before the terrifying roar of the tornado takes over. Keegan, rushing home, is engulfed by the storm as the lights go out. Doug Heddy, the meteorologist, watches the radar showing the massive destructive tornado moving due east into the city, realizing the danger of the rain-wrapped nature of the storm, which makes it invisible to most people until it's too late. The film captures the final terrifying moments before the tornado rips directly through the heart of Joplin, with all the characters struggling to find safety amid the chaos and darkness. The personal terror and immediate aftermath of the F5 tornado that hit Joplin, Missouri on May 22, 2011, following several local residents' stories. As the massive rain-wrapped tornado nears, Stephen and his friends driving through back roads suddenly find their vehicle hit by debris and flung into the air, tumbling violently. Stephen is ripped from his friend Dylan's grasp and sucked out of the car, flying inside the vortex, where he experiences an out-of-body clarity about his life before losing consciousness. Meanwhile, Mac, Kaylee, and Eric are desperately trying to outrun the core of the storm. Mac floors the pedal, but the truck is battered by wind and nearly thrown off the road. They see the rain stop and begin moving sideways, revealing the massive rotation ahead. Realizing they've driven into the path, they frantically take cover in a small store, a place called the Alps. Mac grabs Kaylee's phone just before they run inside, knowing it will be important. They are met with disbelief by some customers, but Kaylee urges everyone to get away from the glass. They all huddle inside a walk-in cooler area as the building begins to vibrate. The pressure change in their ears signals the tornado's direct arrival. The building is instantly destroyed around them. Kaylee and Mac are blasted with glass and grit clinging to each other. They endure the violent chaos, with Kaylee fighting to hold on to her brother Eric, who is being lifted by the wind, and Mac, who is also momentarily airborne but hanging on. After what feels like an eternity, the immediate noise stops and Kaylee looks up to see clear blue sky. They are in the eye of the tornado. This brief, surreal moment of calm is quickly followed by the second half of the storm, forcing them back into a panicked huddle as the wind and debris roar back. At the frozen yogurt shop, Cecil hears the roar intensify and witnesses the wall in front of him crack open, revealing a wall of flying debris, including a tree and a truck trailer. He and two other teenagers take shelter in a storage room, praying and screaming as the cement crumbles. Cecil feels his body start to lift off the ground, briefly letting go, thinking it is the rapture and he is being taken by God, before realizing the horrific reality. Following the initial devastating pass of the tornado, the survivors emerge to a landscape of total destruction. Mac, Kaylee, and Eric emerge from the collapsed store, initially cheering that they're alive, but their elation quickly fades into fear for their families. They find Kaylee's truck completely demolished but miraculously able to start. They drive over power poles and debris with flat tires, struggling to recognize their surroundings. They eventually get stuck and realize they are in what used to be the Joplin High School practice field, a sobering moment that emphasizes the sheer scale of the destruction. Cecil emerges to see the town exploding, confirming the apocalypse-like scene of mile-wide devastation. He finds his parents alive and realizes his fears about the rapture were unfounded, feeling immense relief despite their house being completely destroyed. Meanwhile, Keegan, having rushed home from graduation, jumps into his father's ambulance district work car, throwing off his cap and gown. They drive directly into the war zone at 20th and Range Line, where Keegan, at just 18 and a newly trained EMT, begins triaging the massive number of injured people and bodies in the road, reporting back to his father and trying to help a bloody, unrecognizable former classmate. Chad and his mother, staying at a hotel just a quarter mile from the path of destruction, realize they narrowly missed the tornado. They hear radio reports of the destruction and see a mangled car pull up to the hotel. The driver, in shock, says simply, "Joplin is gone." The next morning, Chad uses his amateur reporting skills, as national news has yet to arrive, to report live from the devastation, lending his voice to the story of a city that has been leveled. The film closes with the immense scope of the disaster witnessed by experienced storm reporters and the immediate work of rescue and recovery beginning. The tornado's immediate aftermath brought the national spotlight to Joplin. News crews swarmed the area, making the trauma of the survivors, like 17-year-old Cecil, very public. The collective graduation class, the class of the apocalypse, was forever linked to the tragedy, with Keegan grappling with the fact that the day he celebrated his future was the same day his town was devastated. The search for Keegan's friend, Will Norton, became a focal point of the community's grief. Will, a budding filmmaker who had just graduated, was sucked out of his SUV while his uncle held on to him. Days of hope were crushed when Will's body was discovered in a pond near the wreckage of his vehicle, confirming the immense power of the tornado's vortex and leaving a permanent scar on the class of 2011. Another harrowing ordeal was that of Stephen, who had been flung from his car and severely injured. He fell into a coma and contracted zygomycosis, an extremely rare and deadly flesh-eating fungus found in soil and decaying vegetation that was infecting tornado victims. Given only a 5% chance of survival, Stephen's doctors had to remove parts of his ribs, lung, liver, and heart to combat the invasive infection. During his coma, Stephen dreamt of a terrifying waiting place and overheard doctors discussing giving up on him, fueling a desperate will to live. Waking up from the coma, he began a long recovery, finding himself closer than ever to his previously estranged parents, who supported him through the ordeal. Stephen, dubbed Miracle Boy by the press, credits the tragedy with teaching him the immense value of family and love. For Mac and Kaylee, who survived by huddling in a cooler, the shared near-death experience solidified their bond but left them with lasting psychological effects like Mac's physical anxiety. Kaylee, however, found her confidence exploded, leading her to embrace new professional challenges and a fearlessness she never had before. In the face of the devastation, Joplin displayed an incredible sense of community. Despite the destruction of the high school and the fact that nobody was unscathed, the community rallied. Volunteers from across the country aided the massive rebuild, and students were back in school quickly. The town's resolve was symbolized by the first home football game after the storm, where a packed stadium found a renewed sense of pride and togetherness. The film concludes with the graduation of the class of 2011, attended by President Barack Obama, who praised the class for embodying the spirit of Joplin. Cecil, no longer defined by fear or the need to hide his identity, is now an openly gay man leading a nonprofit, choosing to stay in the town he loves. The survivors reflect on the tragedy, cherishing life and family, accepting that although they survived the worst, they are forever changed. If you enjoy watching this video, then subscribe to Angel Recaps for the latest movies explanation.